Hi, this is The Greatest Story Ever Played. My name's Dan, and today I'm going to be talking about Monument Valley 2. Before we get into the game, I do have a quick announcement, which is that we have a Discord now. We finally made one. I probably should have done this a long time ago, but with kind of the Twitter chaos, that made me feel like I needed to set up a spot where we could have community. I think a Discord community is great. I'm a part of a couple for other podcasts, but I'd never kind of made the plunge to make one for this show. I really value the community on Twitter. I really enjoy Twitter. I hope Twitter doesn't go away. But I felt like I should make backup plans. And so I've made a Discord. There's an invite inside of the show notes. So if you just go there, you can just join. Inside of the Discord right now, I've made a couple rooms. There's things where spots where we could leave feedback for upcoming episodes. There's also some spots for old episodes if you want to dialogue on that. There's also some just general stuff where we can talk about what's going on. So for instance, at the time of recording, I just picked up Pokemon Violet, so there's been some Pokemon talk in there. Video game deals getting mentioned on there. Stuff like that. So if that sounds like something you'd want, Discord, hop on there. That'd be great. I also made a Hive as a potential Twitter substitute. My @ there is @StoryEverPod, so it's still the same one, just on Hive. I posted that link on Twitter. So again, there are some spaces. If Twitter does go away, there are other opportunities to engage. That was something I really didn't want to lose and felt like making backup plans was very worth it. If you don't want to get on new apps, no worries at all. We do have an email, TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed.com. Email there. Again, really the big thing being is I want to be able to commune, want to be able to relate and engage and stuff with you about what's going on in the games we play. And so, yeah. Hit me up in any of those places so we can keep talking games. And of course, Twitter will be up as long as Twitter's around. I'm not going to get rid of it. But I also don't expect it to stay around. We'll see what happens. We'll see how Twitter shakes out. Cool. All right. We can hop into Monument Valley 2 now. Description for this is guide a mother and her child as they embark on a journey through magical architecture, discovering illusionary pathways and delightful puzzles as you learn the secrets of the sacred geometry. This is a sequel to the Apple Game of the Year in 2014. Monument Valley 2 presents a brand new adventure set in a beautiful and impossible world. Help Ro as she teaches her child about the mysteries of the valley, exploring stunning environments and manipulating architecture to guide them on their way. A little production background on the game. It was developed by Ustwo Games, who are known for making the original Monument Valley. And most recently, the biggest game they've made is called Alba, a wildlife adventure. And Alba is actually a game that's on PlayStation. I think it's on Nintendo Switch. Like, not just a mobile game, but actually one that's on consoles, which is cool. And I'm pretty intrigued by it. As someone who has enjoyed both Monument Valley games, I'm curious to see what they would do in another context and on a console and what that would be like. So I've added that to a wish list, and maybe will someday be a future podcast episode. We'll see. Before we dive into the recap, I think some non-spoiler thoughts would be worth hitting up. Since it's a puzzle game, there isn't tons I can spoil, but I still did want to kind of have a spot off top, just in case, if there's anything you might want to hear that's not too in-depth. So, first thing being is this game's very similar to the first Monument Valley. If you liked Monument Valley, the first one, you're probably going to like Monument Valley 2. On the other side, if you did not like Monument Valley, I just don't think you're going to like Monument Valley 2. It's more of the same, but I would say that 2 adds to it. So it's not simply they just remade the old game and moved on. They did take a lot from the old game that was good, and then they've added some new elements to it. So I think if that was something you enjoyed spending your time with, I think that Monument Valley 2 would also hit that for you. Also, in a kind of experience of playing it, I think the puzzles are pretty reasonably easy. And for me, that's nice. I don't really like working super hard on puzzles. I think that there's a spot where if I get frustrated or it feels like the puzzles are unfair, that can kind of take me out of it and have me not enjoy it. Instead, here, the puzzles I feel like are pretty engaging and make sense and are doable. For me, there were only probably a couple puzzles that I couldn't figure out. And I could kind of see, I'm like, I know what I want to do, I just don't know how to do it. And when I'd look them up, I'd see what it would be, and I would be like, oh, cool, that makes sense. So, not too tough, but yeah, I think pretty enjoyable. I like these puzzles. These are probably among my favorite puzzles in any puzzle game I've played. I think just something about the kind of manipulating architecture and using the environments to go through it is just super enjoyable for me. There's something pretty satisfying about that and cool. And to me, I think Ustwo games super creative at pulling this off. I imagine designing puzzles is hard, and designing like a great puzzle like this is probably really hard. So, kudos to them. Very, very cool. I think also, I guess, if you'd want another game in this vein, Old Man's Journey, I would say, has some similarities to this, where you kind of manipulate the map to be able to go through it. So I think if you like Old Man's Journey, you might like the Monument Valley games and vice versa. All right, so we'll move into our recap now, kind of talk about the pieces of story that are in there and, anything else that comes up along the way. So, first off, this game begins and you've got Ro and her daughter completing puzzles. The way this works starting off is Ro is in front and her daughter is right behind her just following, and Ro's completing the puzzles. Her daughter is just kind of along for the ride, watching or observing, but not interacting with the puzzles herself. And these puzzles are pretty basic. I was doing some reading online, and I guess some of the first couple puzzles mirror the puzzles from the very first game. So like level 1 in each game has a similar puzzle start or something like that. It's been a while since I played the first game, so to be honest, I didn't catch that playing it, but I thought that was cool reading about it. After you do a couple... Oh, also the way the game is set up is there are 14 levels, or 14 chapters. There's 14 chapters, and each chapter may have a couple levels within it. It's not typically like you just go through one puzzle and it's over. Typically it might be you do one puzzle, then it takes you to another area and there's another puzzle and then another. And then you complete your chapter and it moves you to the next chapter. That's sort of how the game is set up. So there's 14 chapters. After maybe the first couple, you and Ro start doing puzzles together, or Ro and her daughter start doing puzzles together. And so it gives you not nearly as advanced, but you have some of a brother's tale of two sons type of thing going on where you're controlling both characters. But in this case, it would be, for instance, if you press forward, then both characters will walk forward. Or if you press right, both characters will go right. And they'll go right as much as, I guess, trail or path that they have. So, for instance, if you're going right, only takes you 1 cube to the right, but then for the other character, it takes them, 6 to the right. The character that only has the 1 cube will walk into their 1 cube and stop. The next one will go until the end of their path, sort of thing. And so you kind of puzzle or maneuver both of them, both go straight, both go right through the puzzle to complete it. So fun wrinkle you get to see fairly early on of doing a puzzle with both characters. So that was cool. After you complete a couple puzzles together like that, it switches to a spot where the daughter needs to continue on alone. So they arrive at a dock, the daughter gets in a boat and sets sail. Ro then stays behind. But Ro's journey is not over. You switch over to playing as Ro alone, and she continues doing puzzles herself. One of the things that happens in Ro's journey is she joins up with a blue totem. Blue totem, in the first game, there was a totem that you did puzzles with as well. The totem is maybe like 3 or 4 cubes high. And so there are some puzzles where you'll manipulate like space or getting taller with that. So one of the ones is like you will manipulate the environment so that Ro can walk on top of the totem, and then the totem can take her to a higher platform, and then she'll be able to climb the platform because the totem made her taller. There's like things like that that go in there. And so Ro continues doing some puzzles, including a little bit with the blue totem. Finally, Ro ends up speaking to a spirit who says this that I thought was notable. A spirit at the end of one of the levels says this: "In our haste in looking forward, we too often forget the past. Time will not be altered, and while it passes, your purpose remains unchanged. Our monuments lie unfinished, and we look to you to continue our work." So we see Ro being commissioned here by the spirits. Also, before this moment, Ro has talked to the spirits a couple times, doing kind of the hat ceremony, where if you reach the end of a level, she'll take off her hat, kind of, you'll have sort of a flash, or it feels like stars come out sort of deal, and then she'll be in a kind of another space, and she'll speak to a spirit. The spirit will tell her something. But this one was a time I thought that was especially notable. We then switch over to the daughter on her journey. And the daughter gets off of a boat, and she starts to climb a tower. When she climbs the tower, the daughter meets a spirit for the first time, who says this: "Our shadows grow long as we wait for one worthy to take up our mantle. She has taught you well, but there is still more to learn. The path will be hard, but remember, we walked it too." So the spirit giving a little bit of insight into who they are, and kind of recognizing for the daughter, Ro has been teaching you these ways, but you also need to continue to grow on your own, I guess, to be able to do this, to be like them. A new puzzle element that gets introduced in this section is the daughter using a plant to be able to scale a puzzle. So there's like a tree, and if you stand on it, the leaves will grow, and then where the leaf goes up to, you'll be able to like use that to get to the next level. So that was cool. That was a new puzzle element. That was fun. A little while later, the daughter goes through a sinking city. So you see kind of water surrounding buildings, and she's kind of walking on the rooftops above the water below her, kind of thing. She then finds another spirit who says, "You have grown so much, and though one lesson is ending, many more lie ahead. Our spirits are restless. When your promise is fulfilled, we will be ready for your return." And this is something that the daughter gets near the end of the game. Ro and the daughter then end up actually reuniting and completing puzzles together again. And finally, at the end of the puzzles that Ro and her daughter do, the daughter gets her own hat ceremony that you kind of saw throughout this, and it seems that she's then joined the order of like the sacred geometry with everyone else. All right, so that's how Monument Valley 2 goes. I guess moving into a couple general thoughts. I like the evolution of this game going from a one-character game to a two-character game, and for those brief moments of playing with two characters, like I alluded to with Brothers Tale of Two Sons. I thought that was a cool change, and it didn't feel like it hampered anything having two people be part of the puzzles. Instead, it was just a cool feature. So I enjoyed that. And again, Monument Valley 2, again, another enjoyable little game. I think that Ustwo Games has done a really good thing. And I think, too, being able to create mobile games that, I don't know, are thoughtful or different. I think that if someone wanted to be kind of negative and just be like, mobile games aren't real games, if they're mad about how a lot of them can just be money sucks, where they, try to make you keep paying for things. Monument Valley is the opposite of that. Instead it's just a base game, and it's probably a one and done sort of deal. It doesn't keep you coming back. It isn't full of ads. It isn't full of things you need to keep paying for to keep playing. None of that. And instead, I would say that it goes very much so in the category of like video games being artistic. I think that if you wanted to, make a group of games and, I don't know, send them into space or something to tell aliens that video games are art, I think Monument Valley would deserve a place on that spaceship going out to let the aliens know video games are art. I feel very awed with the creativity and ability here for this. And I don't know, I guess maybe I'm stupid and maybe it's not as hard as it seems, but to me, it seems very clever and thought out, and being able to make these optical illusions and changing the environments and all that stuff to be able to complete a puzzle is pretty cool. And I don't know, something really enjoyable about that. It feels rewarding completing it. Imagine it felt very rewarding creating it. But yeah, awesome games. Very cool stuff. I guess finally, I've got one piece of listener feedback to wrap us up with, which is Coase on Twitter said, "What a beautiful, thoughtful, and aesthetically gorgeous game." Well said. I think that is spot on. These games, I think that hearing me talk about them is cool, but to be honest, they don't do them justice. I think you playing them and spending the $2, $3, $4, $5, whatever it is worthwhile, and will get you that full experience, just getting to enjoy them and see what they really are. So that is the episode. If you've got any other thoughts on Monument Valley 2, I would love to hear them. Go see me in the Discord or our Twitters at StoryEverPod. If you'd want to listen to a backlog of our episodes, including the first Monument Valley, our website's TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed.com. That has all of our episodes there. They're also wherever you get podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcast, whatever. If you would like to financially support the podcast, you can do that by going to patreon.com/TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed. There, for as little as $1 per month, that will get you monthly access to a bonus episode that we do. These are typically topical in nature, so we've done things inside of video games, like talking about our favorite Pokemon. I revisited The Walking Dead Season 4, the final season, from Telltale a little while ago. There's things like that. There are also things outside of games, like a while ago, I watched through all the Star Wars, the 11 movies, all three trilogies, Han Solo and Rogue One, and then I ranked them and shared some thoughts about the movies. So if any of that stuff sounds like something you'd like, go check out our Patreon. If you'd like to support the podcast but can't financially, that's great. That's totally fine. One way you could do this is just tell a friend about it. Say, hey, check out this podcast. I really liked this episode. Or rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Again, really, these things just help get more people being able to see the podcast. And for me, it's really rewarding to get to share this stuff with more folks. Just seeing where we all come from with the games we experience and what was meaningful to us and all of that. So getting to share that is super enjoyable. So if you have anyone you'd want to be able to share that with, that would be awesome. And that's the episode, and we will see you next time.